Hi, I'm Daniele De Angelis, International Art Director for Tony & Guy Academy and Label M Professional. We're here at the work studio shooting our latest collection, Socialize. The look that I worked for the Socialize collection is called the Icon. Icon is one of the shortest haircut of the whole collection. It's a modern take of a short bob. We kept the perimeter outline quite solid, while internally I was working with more shuttered layered technique, which they create more a deconstructive feeling within the shape. The main focal point of the haircut is at the front, where we work with the double fringe, and this adds mystery and intrigue to the overall attitude of the look. The key inspiration for the look's name comes directly from Prada annual exhibition called the Icon Class, which Prada as a company invites all the major stylists from all over the world, and they try to let them recreate as their own. For the haircut inspiration, my main muse has been Erin O'Connor, in particular a shoot done by David Sims. She's been shot directly from profile. You could see this strong undercut, and then you got this irregular top layer. Let's have a closer look at the technique behind the icon. So I start to map out my haircut by placing a center profile parting in order to create balance from left to right, and then a radial section to divide the front and the back. Then we're moving into the front area, and just around the curvature of the head we take a slightly curved section to divide the top and the underneath. Working behind the radial, around the occipital area we take a slightly curved section, and we point that curve right where the corner of the hairline is. From there, another curved section moving all the way up till we meet our radial. And exactly the same onto the opposite side. And then we subdivide the fringe area with two curved sections. We're gonna start straight away at the back where our graduation is. We're gonna start with our block graduation technique. I'm subdividing my panel, working at natural fall. Elevation is 45 degrees and my fingers position is completely square. Best way to do this is by standing directly in front of the section in order to keep that section really square. As we're cutting at 45 with our fingers position square, the result that we're going to achieve is not going to be a straight line, but instead it's going to be very concave. Once we establish our guide, we're going to come all the rest of the panel all the way into the top to that stationary guide that we just placed. And then we release all the length. As we establish the back area, we start to move into our side panel where we still got that little curve. From there, I'm following the guide that I create for my previous section, and I bring that guide all the way up behind the ear. Now, the reason why we're taking that section out is to reduce length and weight behind the ear, where normally when you approach more into a classic technique, you always ended up to have lots of width. By taking that corner out, you start to introduce an element of an undercut internally and create more of a flatter feeling. Once we finish to establish our guide, I start to begin to dry all the panel off, using my comb to comb everything down into a natural fall and slightly smooth the shard of the hair. Once the hair is dry, we'll start our scissor over comb. To begin my scissor over comb, I use the large cutting comb. You can see that the angle of my comb is always tilting outside. What I want to do is create a very strong graduation, creating a very strong perimeter outline, a lot more tailor, a lot more narrow, and then from there, creating more an element of a stack out feeling. I keep the back area very square, quite clean, in order to maintain that corner that we established at the very beginning with our guideline. Scissor over comb is one of the techniques that we learn from the very beginner here at Tony & Guy with our future foundation. After the jumbo comb, I start to move into my normal cutting comb where the width is even smaller, so I can start to take around the hairline the length a lot more shorter and taper in. Looking at the detail, I'm gonna start to use my barbering comb, and the barbering comb is being used just through the outline to make sure that everything will fade. Moving the head position in different size, and as you work with your scissor over comb, what you want to do every now and then is step back and visualize the shape from far. You can always see it better when you move slightly out. Once we finish with our scissor over comb at the back, we're going to start to move at the front, and we need to establish our length. What I start to do, I start to comb everything down into a natural fold. I'll tilt my model's head slightly into the side just to reduce a little bit more the graduation. Once I establish my perimeter, we're going to start to work directly internally to create our texture, to create our movement. I start on top of the ear with a vertical section. My elevation is directly out from the head, working at 90 degrees to reduce the weight, and my fingers position is completely vertical. Moving towards the front, subdivide your previous section in order always to keep each section is being cut on the base. Then the very last one, I'm over directing to the previous in order to maintain a little bit more density throughout the hairline. Moving now into the opposite side, my elevation, my cutting line is going to be exactly the same. What really changes is just my fingers position. Tilting my fingers down is going to allow me to control the direction of the layer. As we're cutting hair, reducing weight, we also give direction. So with my fingers position, I'm going to be able to follow the direction of the hair. Also reversing my fingers position allow my body to stay in front of the section and be consistent with the length that I'm creating. So once we got the length at the front, we're going to start to move once again at the back. We start with the center profile section, and now we comb the hair all the way at 90 degrees. The whole panel is going to be completely disconnected from the underneath, so it's your visual and personal judgment to understand which is the right length to place. Working at 90 degrees to over direct, my fingers position are slightly decreasing length in order to create a bit more of a graduation. I'm moving all the way up. Once I establish that line and guide, and now I'm just recombing the top area more 90 perpendicular to the head to reduce the top corner. So in that way, the hair at the back is going to bend and create more of a bevel effect rather than stack out. Once we are happy with the length that we established, I'm going to start to move with the pivoting motion, which is the perfect way to follow the head shape at the back. The elevation is going to be exactly the same, working at 90 degrees to over direct, completely straight out, fingers position decreasing length, moving all the way up. Once again, that corner at the very top has to be knocked off. I will stop to pivot once I reach the corner of my original curve section. From there, the whole section is going to be over directed to that stationary guide in order to maintain even more length behind the ear. It's a length that is going to be optional, so once you dry you got that extra length, so you got more room to move. As you dry off, there's always a couple of bits that are going to overlay on top, and you can start to visualize and work a little bit more freehand. It's important to have in creative hairdressing balance between technical skill but also visual skill. Working now on the opposite side, and exactly the same principle that we work at the front. We need to reverse our finger, tilting now my fingers down in order to maintain that perfect body position and also the direction of my layering. As you work with your fingers pointing down, it's very important to also keep your elbow up. The elbow in your arm is always an extension of your hand, and by working with your whole body, it's a lot easier to create a very clean cut. So now we're moving at the main focal point of the haircut, which is the fringe. Working below that too asymmetric curvature, working down into a natural fall, and we start to eliminate length just by working within our fingers. Keep one finger's depth, we start in the middle, and we start to work with a very aggressive point cut. As I've done the first section, I start to move around, following the roundness of the forehead to create more of a slightly squarer effect. Now that we established the length of our fringe, we're moving into our radius section. Subdivide the panel with a center profile parting, and then take a horizontal section starting from to the left and then to the right, working up to 90 degrees to over direct. Fingers position completely square, working more with a square layer technique, still working with that point cut into the shape. Each section is going to be parallel, but we're going to over direct the whole panel into the back in order to maintain a lot more length towards the front. And because we work with that two offset section, that is going to create at the front more symmetry. We got a lot of extra length overlapping to the existing perimeter outline, but this is going to allow me a lot more freedom when it comes to personalize. We start to take off all the clips and start to visualize what we create with our foundation. Before we start our blow dry, we're using the Therapy Defined Protein Cream, which is a great product, a lightweight leave-in serum to nourish the hair and stimulate lots of shine, and also help me so much as I'm blow drying the hair. We begin our blow dry with a cushion brush, a perfect tool when it comes to short hair. Allows you to smooth the cuticle and keep the shape very flat. Once it's pretty much all dry, we're just going into our round brush just to create even more straighter effect. It's important that as you dry, you don't create any particular direction. This is a haircut that's supposed to be dry completely into a natural form, from top of the crown all the way down. Now we finished the blow dry, it's time to personalize. At the front section, we subdivide the panel into slightly diagonal forward section in order to work each panel slightly different and create more a multitude of layers that will overlap and create that double effect feeling. Now is your visual skill that is going to guide you to the next process of the haircut. The main two personalizing technique that I use for the icon is a deep parallel point cut. That if you notice, when I'm pulling out the hair, the way I'm holding the scissor when I'm working with my deep parallel point cut is very perpendicular to my finger. This is going to allow me to create more transparency rather than strong separation within the shape, which makes the feeling of the haircut a lot more updated rather than too dated, 290. Combine that with a channel cut, which also allow me to reduce weight a bit more internally and create more of a flatter effect. When you personalize, you want to look at the hair 360 degrees, looking from every different angle, and make sure that as you personalize, you don't personalize just in one way, but you keep constantly moving the hair in order that when your client is going to move the hair, that all is going to look great. Moving at the back area, we start to eliminate a little bit more of the length and that disconnection between front and back, working within my comb, working visually with my point cut to clean up a bit more the perimeter. Very happy with the proportion that I achieve into the haircut. There's a good balance between strength and texture, and now I'm ready to apply the finishing product. So working with a minimum amount of product, and we use the Label M Shine Mist, a great product, and I'm using with a hairdryer to minimize the saturation of product, and allows me to recreate that softer separation that I'm looking for without saturating too much the hair. The key point of the haircut is that disconnection within the fringe and the back. You got that little undercut at the back, then you got the overlapping length onto the top, and that double fringe is about understanding a balance between clashing two elements. Socialize means each of us is an individual and each of us has a personal taste, and when you socialize, what you do, you're sharing your idea, you're sharing your taste. The main focus for Tony and Guy is always produce a collection that easily can be translated into our salon, into our academy as an educational tools. And when we come to design the technique behind the look, we're really concerned about the adaptability of those techniques. Tony and Guy is based all around the world, so we want to make sure that all the technique can be slightly changed and tweaked through the season, but also through each individual client. We never dictate, we're always sharing new ideas. So this is our look, the icon for Socialize collection.